Hey everybody, what's going on? I wanted to bring you a quick update on where we are at for the year or the 100 days of coding, as it were, the kind of challenge I put myself under, kind of give you an update, and then also just drop a few tips and my ideas on if you're new to this, or if I'm being honest, new to really anything. I think these tips and these tricks and these particular ideas can apply to a lot of different topics. They're things that I used when I was doing sales. They're things that I used when I was doing mortgages, now in my real estate investing business. I mean, these are things that I've used for that, and it's really funny to me that these particular items, these I think are the top three really, but these particular items apply across the board regardless of what you're trying to get into. So let's jump right into it. First things first is kind of where we're at in the 100 Days of Coding Challenge. Again, I don't really have a metric for this because something like coding or development or really anything. I mean, even if you're like a movie critic, I mean, so many different topics are so huge and so robust. It's kind of hard to find those markers of where you're at, of progress and things like that. So the thing that I've continued to use as my marker for progress is the units, as it were, that I'm going through on Treehouse's development tech tree program. They recommend 8 to 12 a day, so that's kind of been how I've been tracking. When I first got started, it was middle of November, and the projected numbers, had I hit those for November, it would have been 128 kind of units done for November, for when I got started in November, if I was hitting that 8 units a day. And in that first, half month, I got to 261 units done. So I was crushing it, right? Like I was in it. I was getting after it. 261 instead of the 128, just decimating what the expectations were, and was really pumped. Was really geared up. I've talked about it before, but I think a lot of that just came from one, obviously, like when you get into your diet or you get back to the gym, you just got that enthusiasm coming off, the block, and you're ready to go. But also I did have experience. I mean, I've been building websites and doing the HTML and CSS side of it for over a decade. I mean, so a lot of that stuff in the beginning was what was covered. And so I was just able to just totally ram through a lot of that content. Now, things changed, and I was pretty honestly disappointed with my progress in December. So in December, if I was following the track of 8 a day, no 0 days, I should have gotten to somewhere around 248 units done. I ended at about 173. Now, a lot of things kind of obviously come into play there. You've got the holidays, you've got just a lot of different stuff that kind of happened in December in general. It gets really busy, it gets really cramped, generally speaking. But also the project started to get harder. I started to get into those further units that I had no experience in and was really learning. I mean, I was learning some really great, useful, new things that I had never experienced before. So I got to 173 units done in December. Pretty disappointing. 173, 248. It's not great. I'm not super stoked. I got the products done. I did some really great work, and I got some great coding done, but I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't do what I was holding myself to standard-wise. So that was a little depressing. That was a little disappointing for me in December. January, we're in a kind of similar situation. Sort of. So it's supposed to be getting 248 units done. Again, 31 days and 31 days. Math is fun. And we're not even at the end of January yet, and I'm currently sitting at 337 units done. So when you elevate, trying to get from 128, in November to the 240, that was, that was a huge jump, but really rose to it. Really took what I was trying to accomplish very, very seriously this month. And I'm already at the 337 completed. I've got another project that's already been submitted, waiting on, to hear back on that. So I've done a lot of really great work. I've learned a tremendous amount and really getting into the tech and really enjoying it. So moving on, what are my 3 tips? What are the 3 best things, the 3 pieces of advice I could give someone who's new to not just this, if I'm being honest. I will have specifics for coding and development, but really, this could be easily applied to anything new that someone is trying to really endeavor to do. But the number one thing I would say, and this comes from one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite marketers, one of my favorite people, he's just one of my favorite human beings, Seth Godin. He talks about when people ask him, how do you get better at writing? How do you become a better writer? And of course, his advice is to write every day, write terribly every single day until one day you just start to write a little less terribly. And then the next day and the next day and on and on and on. And he has people that come to him and just, they want to become writers. And he says, well, show me the 50,000, terrible words you've written. And And if you can't, what are you really doing, right? Because that's his way of saying you've got to put in the work, you've got to put in the reps. It's the person that wants to have, the killer body or, some crazy powerlifting, results. How much weight have you lifted? Show me the reps. What kind of reps are you putting in? And coding is no different. This is the same as if you're in sales. How many sales calls are you making? How many prospects are you reaching out to? It doesn't matter where you're at or what you're doing. Coding is the same. Development is the same. Show me the code you've written. Show me the coding you're doing. And this is why I talk about no 0 days and why I've referenced it in basically every video I've ever done on this after I did that video. But anyway, it's very, very important. Show me the reps. Show me the code. What code are you writing? That's why it's so important every single day. It's no different than if you were, like I said, trying to get the physique, trying to make the sales, trying to do whatever it is you're trying to do. You've got to put in the work. You have to put in the reps. And with regards to this, it's coding. So go code. Do it every day, as much as you can, as little as you can, whatever it is you can knock out, but get it done because it's free. It's akin to, like again, Seth Godin says regarding writing. He feels like everyone should write. Everyone should blog. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to catalog what your thoughts are for the day or how you feel like the industry you're in is going or whatever the case may be. It's so easy to do and it's free to do. Coding is the same way. If you've got access to a computer, if you can get to a library, some applications even run on like a cell phone. Just get the reps in. That's going to be tip number one. Tip number two is tangentially similar to that. But tip number two is kind of similar to writing again. A lot of people say if you're necessarily lacking inspiration, but if you really enjoy someone's writing outside of just reading it, go and rewrite their passages. Go rewrite the stuff that they've already written just to kind of understand where they were coming from. Get the words down on paper that you so enjoy. Go write that stuff. Now, don't do that obviously as a career. Don't go just stealing stuff, but to get yourself in that mindset. The same thing is kind of true here. So one of the biggest tips I can say is just go load up GitHub. Go find, developers and coders and people that are writing the software that you want to write and that kind of stuff. Go load up their GitHub repositories. Go look at the code they're writing. Even if it's something that's above your pay grade, above what you understand right now, start to familiarize yourself with it. Put their repositories in, reverse order and see what they uploaded first. And then maybe see what they've uploaded now. How have things changed? What are the different softwares or technologies or tools or whatever it is they're using? But try to reverse engineer what you see on the page. And at the same time, just jump in and start logging the same code in. I know it sounds strange, but when you're starting new and you're trying to understand functions and arrays and objects and jQuery and object-oriented programming and then you're going to start throwing on frameworks of React and it can start to get really overwhelming and you start to kind of lose sight of some of these important things. So find people whose code you really like. Go on YouTube, watch other people while they code. I know a lot of people have live streams on this. That is not something I think I will do any time ever, or potentially not anywhere in the near future, because it just wouldn't make sense. But watch people as they code. See what they're doing. See how they jump around. What are they looking at? Are they looking at different, just what documentation are they looking at? What are they doing? How are they going about the process to kind of understand it? And it's not quite the same thing, because apparently this is just going to be a Seth Godin-based video, but he likes to tell a story about how fantastically Stephen King avoids the questions he gets at conferences when people who want to be writers ask questions like, what pencil do you use? Or what kind of computer do you use? Or what kind of typewriter are you using? And he very deftly and astutely avoids these questions because that's where people find themselves held back. Well, I've got to get that pencil, or I've got to get that computer, or I've got to get that type of paper, or whatever it is. I've got to have that program. I've got to have Scrivener, or whatever that really popular writing software is. They like to find roadblocks for themselves. And I can find myself doing the same thing if I try, right? So it's not just to go, well, I don't know that language, so I couldn't go do that, or I don't know what this guy's doing, so I can do that. But it can be a means to help you understand and get yourself in the mindset of what certain code functions look like and what certain coding elements look like and how classes start to get declared and just a lot of different stuff. You can start to understand a lot of things just by looking at and pulling up other people's code, looking on YouTube for live streams of watching other people code, pulling up open source programs and seeing what they're using. The other day I was downloading a new plugin for Chrome or it wasn't Chrome, it was for WordPress, I think. But I was downloading it was a new plugin to kind of try out a new feature. It was like to throw alerts or flags up on the screen. It was like a chat function or something. And I looked at the code snippet I was going to have to, copy into my WordPress files. And it was one of the first times I had ever looked at code snippet, and I was like, oh, I totally recognize what's happening here. I can see the declared variables. I can see the function happening. I can see the callback. It was incredible. It was amazing. And those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Find opportunities to put yourself in a position to start immersing yourself in the code, not just your own, but people that you, like I said, admire or find their stuff to be really cool work. Start seeing what they're doing. Start learning the technologies and the softwares and the frameworks they're using and how they're using them. It could be a really great growth opportunity for you. And then the last thing is so important, and I feel like it is greatly overlooked oftentimes, depending on where you're located in the country, the world, your state, your city, who you are, what you look like, just anything can be, you can feel like that's a barrier. But it is incredibly important to find community. Whatever that is for you and where you're at, whether that's meetups or Discords or Slack channels or whatever, just you yourself starting a local coding meetup, and it's just you and some guy named Doug that shows up, and then maybe it grows into something or maybe it doesn't, but finding that ability to harness support and kindred spiritness and all of that in what you're trying to do is incredibly important. And if the least of it that you can do is to jump into some popular developer on YouTube's comment section on YouTube, whatever it is, just find a place for yourself that you can start to talk about your challenges, your wins, what everyone else is doing right now, and then just start to find and cultivate those relationships. Because if this is something you're looking to do for the long term, you potentially have relationship opportunities, whether it comes to jobs or whatever the case is, but you just start to really connect with people, and it just continues to enhance your ability to learn and grow in this thing that you're trying to do. It's why real estate agents have like 17 meetups a day. It's seriously, it's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. Mortgage people were the same way. Sales people were the same way. It's interesting to me to kind of be in and looking, outside looking in on a really interesting industry and a really interesting group of people, developers, that have some really awesome quality meetups. And I've been to a couple of them now and I love them, but they don't have nearly as many as so many other verticals, business and just all these kinds of things, because they just don't quite harness that yet. And to be perfectly honest with you, it seems like a lot of those different verticals don't harness the greatness that is online community as well as the developer community does. But getting out there and being in front of and talking to people face to face has a really tremendous and great value as well. So make sure you're harnessing that community aspect. Anyway, I appreciate you guys checking out this week's video as always. I'm really, really enjoying this process. I'm totally immersed in it. I'm having a lot of fun working on projects that are so much further along than I thought I would be just in general in life, and it's been really exciting. So I hope you're doing well, and appreciate you guys. Cheers.